I still remember the sound, not a scream, not a shout, just a hum, low, persistent, and impossibly faint, like the house itself was holding its breath. At first, I thought it was the heating system or maybe a neighbor running some machine at 2 a.m., but it wasn't mechanical. Something about the vibration resonated in my chest, leaving an ache I couldn't shake. And then the knock came. It wasn't at the door, not really. It was a hollow, deliberate rapping, somewhere between the walls and the floorboards. A sound that shouldn't exist, echoing in a pattern that almost made sense, like someone was counting. I live alone. The town itself wasn't remarkable. Quiet streets, dim streetlights, and houses that seemed to sleep early. My street ended in a cul-de-sac. Nothing strange had ever happened here. People waved at each other in the morning, mowed lawns, walked their dogs. It was November, the nights long and damp. My apartment was small, a second-floor unit in a brick building, barely insulated. Outside, the wind carried the faint rustle of dead leaves, but inside, everything was unnervingly still. I work night shifts mostly from home these days, so my sleep schedule was erratic. I'd wake at odd hours, tired, with my laptop still glowing across the table. That night, I had just finished a call and was about to doze off when the knocking started. I'm not someone who believes in ghosts. I've never had visions or paranormal experiences. My life has always been practical: bills, groceries, work, occasional friends. But something about that night made me question everything. I'd moved here 6 months earlier, trying to leave behind an older apartment that had issues I never wanted to talk about. Unexplainable sounds, shadows stretching oddly, items moving when I wasn't home. I thought it was stress, or maybe my imagination, until that night. I got up at 2:17 a.m., a little earlier than usual, and checked the front door. Locked, just as I left it. Nothing unusual in the hallway. I went back to bed, telling myself I was overreacting. Maybe the hum had been a truck outside. Maybe the knock was someone dropping something. Over the next week, the normal sounds of the apartment became irregular. A faucet dripping when no one used it. Floorboards creaking in patterns that didn't match footsteps. Sometimes I would wake and see small objects shifted, an empty mug on the counter, a pair of socks neatly folded on the floor, things I was sure I hadn't touched. Rationally, I knew someone could be breaking in, but there were no signs, no forced entry, no footprints in the dust, no fingerprints on the surfaces I'd check obsessively. Then came the first impossible moment. It was Wednesday, around 11 p.m. I had left my laptop on the counter, screen open to a blank document. I stepped away to pour water, and when I returned, the document had text typed into it. Just one line: "You shouldn't be here." I froze. My heart pounded. I reread it. I had no recollection of typing. No one had been in the apartment. I checked the logs on my laptop. The keyboard input came from my account at the exact time I stepped away. I tried to rationalize it, maybe sleepwalking, maybe an error in the software, but sleepwalking never felt so conscious. The line was deliberate, clear, perfectly formed. I told myself it was a fluke. Maybe someone hacked the network. Could a remote attacker type a message into my own laptop? I ran scans, updated passwords, even unplugged the Wi-Fi for hours. Nothing. Friends said it was stress. I laughed nervously. "It's nothing," I said. "I'm just tired." But deep down, I knew it wasn't nothing. The hum continued at night. Sometimes I would hear faint breathing, slow, deliberate, coming from the hallway. I told myself it was me, holding my breath in panic. But the sound didn't match my heartbeat. Over the next fortnight, events escalated. Shadows in my peripheral vision, stretching when I blinked. The faucet in the bathroom turning on at 3:03 a.m., off again before I could reach it. Notes appearing, scribbled messages on sticky notes I had never bought, all in the same handwriting style as my own. The knocking pattern changing, sometimes two rapid knocks, sometimes a long, drawn-out thump, sometimes three in quick succession. I documented everything. I kept timestamps, photos, recordings. But every time I showed them to anyone, even my closest friends, they said it looked normal. Just shadows, just floorboards creaking. The night it all broke, I was recording. Phone on tripod, everything set. I had decided to confront it to see if I could catch anything. At exactly 2:47 a.m., the door to my bedroom creaked open slowly. I was standing in the corner, camera on me. And then I heard it, a voice barely audible, almost a whisper, calling my name. Not from a speaker, not from my phone, directly into the room. I turned to see a shadow on the far wall, human-like, tall, elongated, moving without moving. It didn't step forward, but it leaned, stretched, pulsed. I ran. The door slammed shut behind me. I tried the handle locked. I called 911. The police arrived, and when they opened the door, nothing. No shadow, no evidence of entry, no fingerprints. The logs on my phone showed something impossible. Multiple calls to 911 from my number within seconds that I hadn't made. They took my statement. They said they'd investigate. Weeks later, I called for an update. No findings, they said. Nothing unusual reported. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. Sometimes I still hear the hum at night. Sometimes when I pass the door of my old apartment, I swear I see the figure in the window just for a moment, watching, waiting. The police never explained it. They never will. The recurring times, 2:17, 2:47, 3:03. Notes in my handwriting, but I never wrote them. Shadows that pulse, but never cast a reflection. Doors that open without air pressure or hinges creaking. My own digital devices behaving independently. Everything logical, everything impossible. Fear often begins in the small, ordinary details, sounds, shadows, patterns ignored. The unknown thrives in doubt. Even when authorities see nothing, reality can still be broken. Pay attention to warning signs. Your gut may detect what your eyes cannot. I haven't moved out. I can't. Sometimes it feels safer here, but I know it's still there. Watching, waiting. And maybe someday it'll finally cross the line between whisper and action. The police won't explain, but I remember. And I'm listening. If you've ever experienced something inexplicable or noticed patterns that defy logic, comment below. Share your theories. I want to know, am I alone in this, or is someone else hearing the hum too? Subscribe to get more true stories like this.